Cheers. Your boy SuperDerek's moved on to the hard stuff. Good morning to you and welcome back to today's episode of the JRPG Weekly Update Express Edition, because honestly there's not a whole lot going on, but I do want to talk about a few things real quick. So it's going to be kind of a shorter episode than usual, so make sure you click like and comment and do all that other stuff because it really does help, and YouTube's not going to share this video around as much. I can feel it in my bones. But we do have some news to talk about. So, Atelier Ryza, that game that came out pretty recently that kind of I think it seems like it was one of the more successful releases of an Atelier game in a long while. It's almost sold 500,000 copies already, which is really good for any RPG, really, but especially a niche RPG such as the Atelier series, so that's amazing. Well, we did get a little bit of a hint that there is most likely a sequel around the corner, and this came from an unlikely news source. The Australian Classification Board, which listed the game. Basically, it's their version of the ESRB. Well, apparently, yeah, there's a game that they put up on there called Atelier Ryza 2 Legends and the Secret Fairy. It's really awesome, but the listing has been removed, so I can't really show off anything from that. So I guess they might have inadvertently, released more than they were supposed to on that Australian review board. Kind of too bad, but hey, at least we know. In SuperDerek news, on Friday night, I finally finished my review after all this time of Final Fantasy VII Remake. And that review is currently available to my patrons and the subscribers over on Twitch. They have access to it inside my Discord server. So I'll link to that down below. If you are already a subscriber on Twitch or if you're on Patreon, you can watch that right now. Just hop into the Discord server, make sure your accounts are all linked up and you have access. Otherwise, it's going to go out live on Friday. I've done some different things with this one, and I'd like to see your reactions. Now, on to other news. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition is apparently getting online-only multiplayer, as in no couch co-op, unfortunately. In a tweet from Enix, or Square Enix, they stated that the concession of local co-op was to enable the online co-op or multiplayer. Now, personally speaking, I know a lot of players who enjoyed Crystal Chronicles when it first came out, really have fond memories of that local couch co-op. However, speaking from experience, a lot of people who enjoyed this game on the GameCube back in the day probably don't have as many opportunities to play couch co-op with friends as they once did. So this might not have the impact that a lot of knee-jerk reactions would probably have you believe, but you know, it is a thing to at least be aware of. Now, however, that said, it is a bummer that couch co-op has been stripped for people who have families, you know, who have husbands or wives who like to game, or who have kids nowadays who might like to enjoy the game. Not being able to experience that in the same way as you did back in, 2003 or whenever this was released, back on the GameCube. Hopefully, maybe some sort of workaround might be that you could have somebody play on handheld on one phone, and then you could have somebody else with their Switch, and you can play couch co-op that way. Maybe, I don't know, but it's something that we'll just have to see. And I told you this was a short episode. That leaves us with today's JRPG Weekly Forecast, which is that action RPG Dex from Cubic Games is going to be launching on Nintendo Switch here on the 24th. Now, this game is already available on PC, on PlayStation 4, and Vita, and Xbox One, so it is now just coming to Switch. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already had an opportunity. And then also, Dragon, Marked for Death, is from developer Inti Creates. It's going to be launching on PlayStation 4 here on the 22nd, and it too is already pretty much available on Switch and PC. So it's been a very slow week for news, a very slow week for upcoming releases. Yeah, it was a very short episode overall, but we do have the question of the week. And my question for you guys is, what is a hidden gem? What is an RPG hidden gem that you feel like is criminally not necessarily underrated. Maybe it's very highly rated, but just people haven't had a chance to play it very often, or haven't really played very much of it. Lately, you don't hear a whole lot about it. It's kind of fallen by the wayside because, I mean, we all know that games that were released on like the Super Nintendo, the RPGs there are they've got this kind of mystique about them because a lot of people can't play them, or you have to go buy the cartridge and it's really expensive, or something like that. So I feel like those kind of all got a pretty relatively good name for themselves, mostly. But there are some who didn't. So what do you think is a game that is pretty good, but just doesn't get talked about very often? And as per usual, I'm going to try to answer this. And now what I'm going to tell you is probably going to be a little bit of conflicting with my review of the game, but I will recommend that you check out my review of Brainlord, which actually don't watch it. My review of Brainlord is very old and it's very bad. However, the game itself is pretty fun. It's something that you don't really hear too many people talking about these days very often. Brainlord was a game that I enjoyed the heck out of when I was a kid. There are some very end game parts that were very unfair, but they weren't insurmountable. And if you're looking for like a brain teaser slash Zelda style RPGs, maybe, fans of Alundra might even enjoy this one. It is something that will test your mental aptitude, and you might have to look up some answers to questions and stuff on GameFAQs. But hey, that is my hidden gem RPG recommendation for you guys. It's on Super Nintendo, but you could probably just emulate it. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with me for this express edition of the JRPG Weekly Update. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys on Friday with my review of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Have a good day, everyone.